Guys, today we're going to be talking about hierarchy of needs. No, there's been nothing that crazy that's happened to this bow. Matter of fact, since it dropped nearly a year ago with Spire the Watcher, for many of us, this bow has just been collecting dust. But I have been seeing some GM runs out there of folks using this bow, which warranted a deep dive from us. And before somebody jumps and says, Cross, you're only doing this because there's an Eververse ornament for Bright Dust this week available for hierarchy of needs. Just so you know, it's complete coincidence, but it is a fire ornament. With that being said though, let's talk about the ins and outs of this exotic and how it currently performs. First up, how to get hierarchy of needs. Now, technically, it's a low chance random drop from completing Spire of the Watcher on any difficulty, but like other raids and dungeons, that chance can be increased by completing certain triumphs tied to its seal, which grants the title Wanted. Now, Spire is one of the easier dungeons from the last couple of years. Not saying it doesn't still pose some challenges, but it's not like stupid hard, which means this should be much less grindier than chasing something like Heart Shadow from Duality, or even the Navigator Trace Rifle from the Ghost of the Deep. Granted, everything is just RNG, but there are ways through these triumphs to help mitigate that. Now, scoring the Catalyst requires clearing the dungeon on Master difficulty, which does take some time, but definitely doable with a silent team. Before anyone says, Cross, I don't even have one person to play with. Come by our Discord. We've got LFGs for everyone. Now, once you get this weapon and its exotic Catalyst, how are you rewarded for your efforts? Hierarchy's two exotic perks are Guidance Ring and Apollonic Tangent. Now, it states that precision hits and final blows build Guidance Ring energy, and at full charge, hip firing creates a Guidance Ring, and arrows fired through that ring release seeking projectiles, which do more damage based on distance travel. Now, clearly, this is one of those weapons that has its own self-contained gameplay loop where you charge it up, you drop a ring, and then fire away. Now, the Catalyst offers modest benefits with the Prophetic Vision trait, speeding up reload and draw speeds after dropping a ring or hitting a target with its projectiles. Now, the first time you use hierarchy of needs, this all feels intuitive. However, there's some finesse to truly mastering these perks. First, Guidance Ring requires 6 charges to deploy, measured by the exotic meter on the left. In PvE, precision hits grant 1 charge, kills also grant 1 charge, and precision kills appropriately grant 2 charges. In PvP, those values are double. Crits give 2 charges, kills give 2 charges, and precision kills give 4. Now, firing a single hipfire shot will then drop the Guidance Ring 5 meters in front of you, as you can see here on the screen. Now, what the description doesn't tell you is that the hipfire must be a fully drawn shot to deploy the ring, and firing through the ring creates 2 tracking projectiles, and you'll see it right there, the orange trails matching the ring itself. Now, they do not require fully drawn arrows to be fired. Now, granted, you still gotta pull it back a little bit, but pretty much any amount of draw on an arrow shot through the Guidance Ring will create these projectiles. Now, if it sounds more finicky than its text implies, don't worry, this quirky behavior actually allows for some interesting play. With that being said, how does this feel in action? Against Carl, Hierarchy's full drawn base damage is 6,347 damage per body and 10,143 damage per crit. Against red bar enemies, those numbers are obviously much higher at 14,809 per body and 23,666 per crit. Now, you can also fire the bow by tapping the trigger or only partially drawing the bow, which does weaken shots, but not by that much, only losing around 16% damage against targets. Now, the Guidance Ring projectiles are interesting with their own quirks. Apollonic's description says they deal more damage from further away, but further from what? Dropping a ring and running back to increase damage is not going to change anything, so placement is key. If the ring is 18 meters from a target or less, projectiles will do the minimum amount of damage, while any placement further than 31 meters will do maximum damage. Again, it's the distance between the ring and the target that determines the damage dealt, not the user. Now, against Carl, projectiles from a close by ring deals 5,345 damage each, and about half that in splash damage if there's a near miss. Distance ring creates projectiles that deal 10,090 damage each, nearly that of the base shot, granting roughly triple damage. Combine that with the splash damage, and projectiles are solid against single targets and crowds of ats, while the highest damage shot possible would mean dropping a distant ring and landing a fully drawn crit. And you can actually just drop a ring and then just rapidly fire those barely drawn shots to bombard enemies with those explosives. This effectively turns Hierarchy into a rapid-fire, infinite ammo missile launcher for 13 seconds while that ring is active. And the moment you drop one ring, you can start to build charges for the next. Now, inside of PvP, it's not really that exciting. While Hierarchy functions largely the same, the Crucible just doesn't support this dual-style loop of being aggressive to charge a ring, then falling back for that passive play, and considering you have to be on top of your your ring. This really roots you to the same spot. Now at base, it deals 153 damage per crit and 96 damage per body, and projectiles deal 14 damage on the close end and 17 from afar, which seriously compresses the ring's damage ramp compared to that of PvE, with poor ratios. Remember that against combatants, each projectile is almost as deadly as a crit. Here, it's maybe 10%. This means that the perfect shot, a fully drawn crit with 2 projectiles, only does 187 damage. Not enough to one-tap most Guardians in normal Crucible, let alone checkmates. And that perfect shot would be hard to pull off in the first place. It's just not worth the effort. Which is really surprising that Bungie made this bow so difficult to utilize inside of PvP when Le Monarque was running rampant for so long. Now, what are the best use cases for Hierarchy of Needs? Guys, I've got a lot to say about this bow. Remember, when it first came out, by no means was this bow meta, but it had something unique about it. You see, you could make Warmind cells with this bow. Not only that, when you shot a Warmind cell with the guidance arrow, your ring would triple in size. What's so painful about this is that we don't have Warmind cells in the game. Bungie took them away. And I know everybody's like, but cross the lore. I know, I was there. I understand why they're not in the game. I'm just saying that the bow literally leaned into Warmind cells to then just have that taken away. And considering Dero Rasputin sacrificed himself for us, it would have been nice here to have this Dero exotic bow of ours still produce Warmind cells in honor of him. We did a comparison last year between all the different exotic bows. The reality is, especially for solo play, Hierarchy of Needs really doesn't do anything that other bows can't do, and also what other bows can't do way better, whether it's TQ's Divination, Trinity Ghoul, Le Monarque, which by the way has anti-champion capabilities. Hierarchy of Needs doesn't have that. Unless we have an artifact mod for bows, it doesn't have that benefit. Now with that being said, for those that get bored of the long-range playstyle like scout rifles inside of PvE, for whoever might actually be using scout rifles, Hierarchy Needs does mix things up a bit, right? It makes that loop exciting. Watching those shots, tracking through that guidance ring, hitting beefy enemies, this gameplay loop feels good. And with the Catalyst, you're able to bring that base knock speed to around 57 frames, with a full draw taking around 58 frames, meaning you're able to put out many shots all at once. Now this thing actually gets better with more people using Hierarchy of Needs. You see, I can use my teammates' rings and my bows still get those advantages and those tracking arrows. And if we have 3 people rocking this bow, we can literally just be spamming these tracking shots over and over. And if you build into this bow, especially exotics that help with solar damage or even take advantage of solar surges, Hierarchy can be deadly. Dare I say, a versatile PvE weapon that feels distinct. But at the same time, TQ's Divination also offers tons of kabloomies and can deal more consistent damage than Hierarchy with faster draw time. You've got Wishiner, which is still like the undisputed king of PvE, which can deal with barrier champions and over-penetrate targets. Again, it's a tough sell, man. There's so many unique exotic bows in the game. I still maintain the one thing that really makes Hierarchy of Needs truly unique was the potential for it to truly synergize with Warmind cells. And I know it was because it dipped into Warmind mods, but what if that just became an intrinsic capability of this bow? The other thing that we mentioned nearly a year ago was that the guidance ring needed to track with you, as in when you fire it, instead of you being rooted to the spot, you could continue to move and the ring would go with you. Look, I wouldn't be saying this if it was just some bow you picked up wherever or even as a drop, but this is a dungeon weapon, a dungeon drop from Pinnacle content, guys. And a year ago, Hierarchy was outclassed, and even today, it still is. Granted, Bungie could just come out tomorrow and say, hey, listen, we're buffing the damage 200%, have fun, and then boom, it's literally the meta. But with the new dungeon right around the corner, I wouldn't bet on it. So guys, that is our breakdown and deep dive for Hierarchy of Needs. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Again, we make videos not only on weapons that are really good, but also forgotten weapons. And even though this bow is still somewhat new, considering it's only been out for a year, it most definitely is a forgotten weapon. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.